Hello and welcome to the August update from Dean Park. I've had a bit of a break over the second half of July and into August, but I'm now starting to gear up again on the layout, and I've got a couple of scratch build areas of the layout that I'm working on just now, so I'll take you through those as well as some other small updates. Hope you enjoy. Cheers for now. Here I've got the interior details for the low relief factory, and I'll take a closer look in at each part in a minute. But what these are designed to do is be removable, okay, from the building. So I lift the building off, the interiors stay the same. It's a method that Everard Junction has used on one of his office blocks, and I found that quite useful to see that, so I'm adopting it here with this particular build. There will be an upper interior on the two-storey, which will sit above the two legs there, okay, and there will be a wall that goes in the back here, will be fixed there, and obviously the upper floor will be supported like on top of the bits of wood. It's obviously low relief. I'm trying to give the impression that it's going back into the building, so you've kind of got to imagine that there's actually no wall at the back of this building, okay, but the windows are dirty, it'll be dimly lit, you will see the interior, but you won't probably see all the way to the back of the building clearly enough to understand that it's not actually a real factory at the back. You know, it is low relief. So it's kind of playing with your perception and your imagination. Okay, looking at the workshop side of things, I've gone for a metalwork scene. It's supplying the depot with parts, predominantly metal, obviously for the locomotives. These are scale model scenery workshop benches, which I've made into metal workbenches. You can in the kit make them into woodwork benches, and you've even got the wee blue vices there, and I've painted the silver iron coloured jaws of the vice and the handles. I've fitted some details to these benches, just some evergreen tube and strip there, painted the different colours, maybe an aluminium bit of tube in there, and some steel bar, okay. The shelving here, also scale model scenery kit, has been built, sprayed in primer, sprayed in Humbrol 64, and then given a weathering with a brush with some Humbrol weathering powders before giving it a quick seal in place with a very light pass and misting of matte varnish, okay. I've got the little footsteps there, again a scale model scenery kit. I'll put the link in the description below for these kits, and you can go and have a look for yourself. They really are quite good. The base itself is a 4mm bit of MDF, and I've primed it and then painted it with weathered concrete before weathering it again with some powders. You'll notice, I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, I'll pan the camera to the left slightly. There's a darker area there with the grime, because that's behind the shutters, so when the factory shutters are open, there's a lot more traffic going that way. The light that you're directly under now has lightened everything a little bit, but there is a variation in tones there. There's also a bit of texture to the surface. When I primed it, I usually rub it down, being MDF, but this time I didn't. I just painted over the top of it, and it's got a nice kind of, not a rough texture, but there is a texture in the floor. Looking into this area here, which will be a storeroom, I've got the shelving, and on the shelving I've put basically forms of metal supply. So I've got at the bottom there, I've got piping, which has gone a bit rusty, so it might be some steel piping. The middle there I've got some aluminium piping and some stuff on the top shelves. Looking at the other one here, I've got some flat bar that's been stacked along, the same on the bottom, and then obviously there's some just come in and they've just dumped it on the floor. Slightly bigger ladder there for getting to the top shelves to get stuff, and I've also put some wood planks there stacked up. Remember, there's an entrance door at the side here where they can get supplies in. I've put wood there for a reason, that, you know, they might need some carpentry in order to do some repairs or some framing. Okay, so it's predominantly metalwork, but there are some woodwork supplies. Again, the same kind of colour textures and tones as the workshop flooring. Precision paints, weathered concrete, some weathering powders, and sealed in place. My intention for the upper floors is more of a former office, more derelict just now, so I'm going to have some shelving and lots of boxes lying about, like they obviously start to pack up stuff, and they don't use that particular area that much anymore other than as a storeroom. All three areas will be lit, and the lighting rig will be assembled here, so you'll not see it from behind obviously the brickwork, and there's holes in the base of each of the sections for the wires to feed through into the baseboard and obviously get wired up to a switchboard. None of the furniture's fixed down yet. It will be eventually getting glued in place before I put it on the scene, but I'll just put this over here just now. He says hopefully a bit of adjustment with the base of each one. The reason I've done both bases independently of each other is that there's a solid wall between the two. Okay, so there we go, they're in place now. Obviously you'll not see much until I put lights in, but if I do peek in the top north light windows, I can see some detail. That's all the furniture now fixed into position, as you can see there. Just put in place a little bit of Rocket Rapid. I'll now work on the lighting rig, which I'll show you in the next clips. As you can see there as well, actually I've added some guttering and pipe work, etc., just leaning up against the shelf, okay, not being put away or stacked properly. This here will have a roof on top, which is tiled, and there are the four corners there. Deliberately never cut off the bits of paper. This is all mounted on with spray mount, and that will go and sit on there. I'll put a wee bit of glue in there just to fix it in place, although it doesn't need it. As you can see, it's going nowhere. And then that'll be the upstairs, which I'll add some details to. Right, I've put the interiors in position at the depot, and before I did that I wired up the lighting, and it's all into the system now, so it operates from the main switchboard. What you'll see is vertical pillars here, okay, and through these I've got an L-shaped bracket, and you probably see it a bit better in this one here, and that's just square section evergreen plasticard, and I've wired the lighting through that. Now, the lighting themselves are these battens, and these are from West Hill Wagon Works, and the link will be in the description below. They're a new product from the West Hill Wagon Works group, and they've two LEDs going to this plastic section here, and they've actually got small clear diffusers that you put on them as well to make it look like a fluorescent tube, so you actually get that dispersion of light, so it's not quite so sharp. And that's what I've tried to do here. You'll see that there is a single light here, so it's got two LEDs. They're tiny LEDs, they're micro LEDs. Then I've got the same here into the storeroom. You'll notice I've also got some tubing going along the floor there. That's to tidy the wire up and keep it all in position, and also to keep it hidden. Okay, and the wire goes through the baseboard and into the main circuit. I've done the same here. Okay, it's very thin enamelled wire that I've attached to the lighting sections, and there's resistors attached to them as well. Okay, these specific ones from West Hill Wagon Works come pre-wired with resistors, so it saves you a lot of hassle. I've put a bigger resistor on it to dim the light even further, but as I say, you can use them straight from the packet, so check these out at the West Hill Wagon Works website. So I've got two of these on the workshop, one on the upper and one on the lower, and they're all connected in, and I'll flick the switch just now and you'll be able to see them operating. There we go. You'll be able to get the impression of the warehouse there that's been lit, and when I put the main covers on, when I'm finished the build, you'll get the whole interior of the building lit up and shining through the windows. You'll probably get a better view of the lighting rigs from this angle, and you can see I've added some workshop staff, working at the vices and that kind of thing. This is what I like to do, is adding the detail. I'm obviously driven by detail, so I like to add all the little intricacies and even bits that you don't see. That's what I really like to do. That's the upper section now being furnished with some shelving units and boxes. They're both scale model sceneries kits. It's to give the impression of a disused office, maybe now used as a storeroom, with some boxes left lying on the floor. Okay, that's the factory now in position. I'm going to switch on the interior lights. Obviously you're not getting the full effect from that just now until I turn off the main loft lights, and obviously you'll then get an idea of the spread of light. Usually the lights will be on with the rest of the depot lights, so I'll show you that sequence as well. As you can see here in isolation, all the windows are lit, including the skylights and the north light windows. When I switch on the rest of the depot lights, you'll get an idea how it all blends in. Looking into the interiors, when the lights are on, you'll see some of the detail. For example, left hand window in the shot there, you can see the worker at his bench. The second window in from the left, there's a cardboard box on a surface. Upstairs you've got the shelving with the cardboard boxes, and downstairs you've got some details including the stack of wood and shelving coming from the storeroom. I really am pleased with the way this has turned out, especially when the rest of the lights in the depot are illuminated. That's really the back of the depot now completed, with the factory obviously in position. The factory took a bit longer than it could have done because of lockdown restrictions. I was unable to get the materials that I needed to complete the task, but as you can see here from the left hand side of the shop, where I've got the office block to the boiler house, along to the Laurel Leaf factory, and even in the distance there you'll see the Blue Peaked warehouse. So really I'm pleased how this all come together. It's taken a while, as I've said, but yeah, pretty chuffed. The task I've been doing this month is updating some of the speed signage and upgrading to the scale model scenery modern Lineside signage, and the code for that is S017-00, and the link to that is the description below. Some of my earlier 10 Commandments speed restriction signs have faded. You probably see that the 5 there and the arrow is fading out a little bit, as well as these two here, and these had to be cut out from a sheet using a fine pair of scissors basically, and whilst I managed to do them pretty well, they've obviously faded over time. So I'm upgrading to the new ones from Scale Model Scenery, and you'll see those on parts of the layout in the subsequent clips. There's the new speed sign in at the Signal and Telecommunications Training Centre. As you can see there, it's nice and sharp red with the dark black numbering and arrows, so I really am pleased with how that's gone together. I just scratch build the actual pole and the circles, and then mount the speed restriction on with some spray mount. The Scale Model Scenery kit, you do actually get small poles. You can just stick the signage to the small thin poles you get, but I like to put them on my own scratch built ones. It's a bit more substantial for me. When I installed the speed signage at the depot side of the layout, I again made my own scratch built actual signs and frames, and used the Scale Model Scenery laser cut ones, which by the way are superb. obviously you don't have to bother cutting them out, so they're perfect circles. I put this one in with the 60 and the 30 for the line that diverges to the left, and somebody very kindly pointed out to me that that's the wrong way round. The smaller speed, if you like, should be at the top. So I'm taking this one away. I'm not going to scrap it. I'll just remove the speed signs, sand it down, and then reapply a new speed sign in time. Maybe I need it somewhere else in the layout or something, I don't know, but it'll certainly not go to waste. So I just usually hold them in place with a tiny bit of Rocket Rapid adhesive, so they can come out quite easily. And then I've just got my new one that I'll test fit just now, and then it will be glued in using some adhesive. I weather them as well, just some Humbrol weathering powders with a broad brush, dusted back and forth both sides, and the actual stem as well, the tube, and then I seal it in place with some matte varnish. In the last month I've been turning my attention to this area, which is a girder bridge and brick supports at the Signal and Telecommunications Centre. This is to tie in with the other side of the raised section, where there is also a girder bridge section. To the right of the screen, where the ScotRail BG is sitting just now, that will be a retaining wall which will match in with the corner here of the buttress and then along. The actual makeup, the design of that is still ongoing, so that will be hopefully happening in the next 2 or 3 months. There is an island there in the middle, a brick raised platform. This will be to house some upright supports, whether they are cylindrical concrete pillars or concrete square section. I'm still developing and designing that just now. You'll see that the girder sits on top of the brick supports, which I'll show you in closer detail in a moment, and there is also these parapet walls there as well. Obviously there'll be ledges there for the brick and the girder to sit on, as per my previous designs on the layout. So I'll look at this in individual parts in more detail in the next clips. I fabricated these support walls from 2mm plasticard or styrene, and then I added the Southeastern fine cast embossed brick sheet onto the surface, just using Rocket Rapid and a healthy covering of that adhesive to sink into the embossed backing of the brickwork. I then added these little plinths along the bottom, and they're 15mm high, and they sit on a 0.5 styrene sheet with the brick embossed, so it just gives that nice profile. The actual frames themselves, I just glued at the corners using some Rocket Rapid and used some magnetic squares from York Model Making to achieve the squareness at the corners. I did the same with this one. Obviously it's more complex because this is to replicate the buttress wall, and then it sinks back in, and I'll obviously go into more detail as the project progresses. The girder itself is the Vari girder from Will's kit. I've used this on the layout before at the station and also the other side of the Signal and Telecommunications raised section, and this will be given a sympathetic rusting with a light grey painted finish. This is the platform, if you like, that the pillars will be attached to. It's obviously going to have a top on it, a top that overhangs the side. That's just a scrap piece just now. Okay, what I did was I used the curvature of the track to get the curve, and then I cut it from MDF and sanded it into exactly the same shape. I've then put embossed brick plasticard on top, and then obviously I'll put a platform on top of that, which will probably be made from 2mm MDF and made to look like concrete. So that's kind of an ongoing design which will come hopefully to fruition in the next few weeks. At the west end of the depot, I've got a retaining wall section with tunnel portals with the tracks set in. I'm going to replicate that kind of theme here as well. As you can see, I've got a 2-lane tunnel portal at the left hand side. That's because it splits into 2 for the passing loop, and at the right hand side there I've got a single lane portal. All have been designed by myself. There'll be a retaining wall going along the back and at the front to kind of box this section in. As you can see here, I'm starting to work out where the buttress walls are going to go for the tunnel portals, and that all kind of ties in with the previous design that I've used at the other end of the depot. Well, that's it for the August update from Dean Park. I hope you've enjoyed it and got something from it that you can possibly use on your own layouts at home. If you have any questions on what you've seen, please post in the comments section below, and the links to some of the products that I've used are also in the description. Hopefully you're back in 2 or 3 weeks time with some more progress on the layout as we start to gear up towards autumn and into the modelling season. Thanks for watching. Cheers just now.